Hey everybody, I'm Jan Erickson from Stepping Aside, and welcome to As Above, So Below, a rune and tarot divination for Monday, the 17th day of June, 2024. Couple housekeeping things to tell you about this week. Lots of things entering Cancer this week. Three planets. Venus yesterday entered Cancer. Mercury today, and the Sun on Thursday will be in Cancer. So lots of influence there. Also, we have on Friday the full moon in Capricorn, 6:08 p.m. according to my ephemeris. Also, summer solstice on Thursday, 1:50 on according to my ephemeris. Some people, or according to the internet, it says 1:50. So I don't know what they're looking at, but my ephemeris says 1:51. But no big deal really on that. But that's the summer solstice, also called Litha, which is the longest day of the year. It's a fire festival, and Litha is, and anyway, represents the longest day of the year in the beginning of summer. So we have that going on all week long. Lots of different energies flitting about and influencing things. Hopefully the frost time is over here on the high desert. I don't know. We'll see. We covered Friday night, Saturday night, and last night. It looks like we don't have to cover anything tonight, but we'll be paying attention to the hourly forecast. I don't know on these weather apps what, is really going on or what they're doing, or I mean, I realize they cover a specific area, so I don't know. But here, they're rarely correct. It's all, because for us it might say 40, but if we've got 17 mile an hour winds at night with gusts up to 25 miles an hour, for example, and high humidity, it's going to frost. It's going to drop that temperature, and we're going to have some frost on things. And so that's why we had to cover. One night, though, I think it was Saturday night, Sunday morning. That was the bad one, I think, because my corn got bit a little bit. Even though it was under blankets, it still got on the edge there, the little row on the edge of the garden space where I have it planted. You can see that it got damaged a little bit, but it's not going to affect it. It'll be in shock for a couple days, and it'll start growing again. So anyhow, let's look at the rune from the Elder Futhark first here. We're looking at Dagaz, which is the 23rd rune of the Elder Futhark. 23 reduces to 5, so you're looking at change, protection, and innovation, variety, all of that. But with Dagaz, it looks like a little bow tie. You can see lots of different runes in it. In the middle, you've got the X, which is Gebo. You've got the Laguz on either side, which is flow. But you also have Kenaz in all directions, and Kenaz is the light of spirit. And so with Dagaz, you're looking at a new day. It can describe awakening, which would be the Kenaz influence. One period ending and another beginning. Dagaz is useful in rituals. I like to use it on like an equinox ritual where I draw it either with a stick on the ground, or I draw it, mentally. I visualize it on the ground. And I stand in the center and I experience the switch at the equinox. The equal day equals night, right? And so I'm in the center of that. So at the moment of equinox, that's when I may cast a spell or cast an intention or something like that for something that can happen in the next phase, right? It's a really interesting rune. I like it. I like to work with it. If you turn it on its side, you kind of have a little bit of an hourglass there, or if you round the corners, you've got infinity. So it just shows that the passage of time is infinite, and passing from one phase to another is an infinite experience for people. So keep that in mind. Let's take a look at the below side of things, or the physical reality side of things, with the Geomancy runes. I'm going to throw down the 4 elemental runes, put them in the order of fire, air, water, and earth, and see what we get. Well, we have poor. When did we have poor last? Did we have it last week? Scattered little boy energy, a lack of impulse control. Poor and Puella, or Puea, are the youthful energies of the Geomancy runes. Puella would be the little girl rune, and sort of scattered focus and happiness and positivity and all of that. But poor is the little boy side. I raised two boys, so I know, and anyone who's raised little boys, or even with little girls, but little girls tend to be, I don't know, I guess it depends on the little girl. But I would always know something was happening when everything got quiet. So that's when you have to stop what you're doing, get up off the couch, get up out of your chair, come out of wherever you are. You have to stop what you're doing and you have to go investigate the silence, right? Well, that's poor. It's a lack of impulse control, but it's youthful. The other one in Geomancy that would be a massive, extreme version, adult version of it would be Rubius. That's the real problematic one. But with poor, it could just be a lack of impulse control is ending. You're trying to maybe that about yourself. You tend to act impulsively. It's like, okay, in this new phase, I can't do that, or it could be a new phase where there's a lot of that. So let's take a look at the, it's going to be on either end of the spectrum, right? Let's take a look at the cards though. I've already done some shuffling. So I'll just shuffle just a little bit more and hopefully not drop a card. God, one day I dropped like 5 cards on the floor. That was fun. Because it's dark in here. It's dimly lit. But I'm going to go ahead and cut the deck and take the lower half. We'll take the cards from there. 3 cards. Ooh, 2 cards from the Major Arcana. Well, let's see. We have the 5 of Pentacles, we have the Moon, and we have the Fool. Let's go ahead and do the numerology really quick here. Get that out of the way. So we said Dagaz was the 23rd rune. 23 plus 5 for the 5 of Pentacles. Let's see, 18 for the Moon. And then 0 for the Fool, so we won't put that in. We have 46. Oh, well, that's interesting. 46 reduces to 6 and 4 is 10. 10 reduces to 1. So 1 is about new beginnings. So we do have an emphasis then on something new happening. With the Fool at the end, we can think of that as undeveloped potential, and so the potential for anything. But as long as you keep your impulses a little bit under control, and not take risks that are maybe unfounded or something. Because sometimes you don't think about the risk, but maybe you need to. Fool is sometimes I look at that in terms of trusting the process. So, maybe not so much. But we start out with the 5 of Pentacles. Here we have some really significant change in these people's lives. This is a change in circumstances, change in maybe they become homeless. You can see that they're both injured, or at least the one is. The other, they don't look like they're wearing shoes. Maybe, well, this one here looks like he's wearing a boot, but he's got bandages on this foot. Not sure if this one is barefooted or maybe just wearing socks or something, but it does not look like shoes that the person has on. The taller person is leaning into the wind. You can see there's snow falling, snow on the ground and snow falling everywhere. There appears to be a church in the background with a stained glass window. You see 5 pentagrams there, or pentacles there. But you don't see a doorway in. And so either they're passing by and they know help is there and they're going to go into the door that you don't see down the way maybe a little bit, or generally how I interpret this as help is available, but they're not seeing it. They're so consumed with their own grief and the change that's happened in their life. This is really a card of destitution, and something's happened significant so it could be that something significant has happened in your life, and that is likely on the one period that's ending, given that the Fool is at the end of the reading here. So something about your physical reality, your home, your health, something that's significant that has happened in your life is going to move into another phase, essentially with Dagaz. You want to be really careful again with Poor not to let not to let your impulses get out of the way, so that you basically reinforce that destitution or illness or whatever that's going to increase all of that. You want to let that period end, and then watch a new door open to something that can either alleviate this completely, or at least a beginning that you're going in that direction. The moon is about transformation. It's also about dreams and cycles and intuition and illusion, but it's also about change, a rebalancing, if you will. Here you have, with the 18th card from the major arcana, that's a 9 energy. And so there's a sense of endings and completion. There's also a sense of spirituality and generosity about this card. But when you look at the crayfish coming out of the pool, he doesn't come out all of the way, does he? But there's a sense of transformation, because like lobsters, I guess they shed their skin, maybe. Here you have the wolf and the canine, the domestic dog. So you've got the balance between the animal instincts within and the more civilized self. You can see that within it. You see 2 towers, one on either side of the picture. Anytime you see anything that's like that, whether it's 2 mountain peaks or 2 trees or 2 cliffs, you see a passage between them that's taking the middle path, essentially. It's finding balance. It's not allowing the ego to get off track, essentially. And with poor, that's important to remember, because, again, that's a lack of impulse control. But again, nothing that's going to harm you like Rubius might, or extend harm to others the way Rubius might. But basically, it's also not only about rebirth, but it's also about illusion and deception with the moon. So there could be some self-deception at work. Maybe you think you've given up and you think there's no hope for anything different, but a rebalancing can take place, especially if you're looking at Degas here and you're visualizing yourself in the center here. In a sense, you're rebalancing what your life experience is going to be, letting go of one phase and embracing a new one. And so there could be a little self-deception about this change that's happened, if there has been one in your life that's significant. You may think it's never going to end. Well, the reading would suggest that it will. And again, don't be so impulsive as to take the first thing that comes along. Be very clear in what you need, and be very clear in what that offer is, and whether or not it's actually going to fix anything for you or take you in a different direction that's more productive and positive. Because when you get to the Fool, card 0 of the major arcana, where the Fool is representative of the soul, essentially taking its leap into form. It's not even looking where it's going. You see, the Fool is looking toward heaven, essentially, and you see the sun representative of that, and the yellow sky. And then you have this break right here with the mountain peaks, where suddenly he's going to be into his physical form, into his new life during that phase of wherever the soul is putting itself, right? You have his dog at its side. You have this little, it looks like a knapsack, but actually if you get a closer look, it's more of a bag. And so he or she may be bringing in whatever lessons learned in other lifetimes, in other soul expressions in physical reality. And he's ready, he or she he's holding a white lily or a white rose. Look, it's hard to tell, because if it was a lily, you'd see more little points everywhere. Whatever, it's a white flower, we'll say. With this whole purity of experience, you see the wheels all over his tunic. So he's ready to experience the turn of the wheel. He or she is ready to experience the turn of the wheel in that physical reality that the Fool is about to jump into, that the soul is about to take its leap into physical form. And so with the Fool, you're talking about undeveloped potential. Even though I think we come in with a theme, it doesn't mean that we know how that's going to all play out. And so you move through life in a way that if you use the soul as your guide, you're going to be taking a look at it a little bit differently, a little bit more dispassionately, in a more observer role than if the ego is there and you're constantly reacting to everything around you. That would be a little bit of the poor energy, the lack of impulse control, to where you're kind of like here, there, and everywhere. It's like you take a child into a toy store and they're like, oh my gosh, and they're everywhere. They're running everywhere because they're so excited, and their attention lights on something for a moment, and then they see something else and they're off and running, right? That type of energy. So the fool can either approach the new situation that the fool's coming into in that way, where it's frenetic and all of that, or you can invoke the soul within and say, look, let's take a little more critical look at things, a more observational role before we just jump into something willy-nilly without knowing anything at all about it. And especially if you're coming from something that's significant in your life, we'll just say, whether it has to do with losing everything or becoming really ill or experiencing destitution, it doesn't have to necessarily light on any one of those in particular. It could just mean a significant change in your material security or in your material reality, we'll say. We'll make it even broader, because it could be anything. If you're coming out of an illness, I know what that's like. I had rheumatoid arthritis for quite a few years. It was severe. The medicines didn't work. Ultimately, I became a cannabis patient in 2010. In fact, I wrote my first book about it called Confessions of a Back Porch Herbalist, where I talk about what I did to get well. And my husband grew for me over the summer. We processed it into medicines. I started taking them at the end of December of 2010. And by the middle of March of 2011, I was in clinical remission. Something the doctors could never do, the medicines could never do. Didn't plan on that happening because I was really, really sick. And but there's a perfect example of Degas, especially if this is talking about an illness in your life, where it's possible that maybe something's going to happen here and you're going to get better. Maybe the treatment that your doctors got you on is doing wonders for you, and now there's a new treatment out and you're using it and it's doing wonders for you, and now suddenly your life changes and you feel like, especially if it's a chronic illness or something really serious, suddenly I didn't think I was going to have a life, and suddenly I did. And so it's that Degas moment, where one door literally closed for me, and I got my life back, right? And so in a sense then, all things are possible, and all things have been possible since then. So I have a little damage from what the RA did to my body. I have torn meniscus in my left knee. Both of them are torn, and the RA just really, my immune system really attacked it, while that was going on. And so I do walk with a cane with it, because I fell a couple years ago and re-injured the knee. So now I have to walk with a cane again. For a time there, I didn't. I got rid of the cane that I had when I had rheumatoid arthritis, but you can delude yourself with the moon thinking, oh, I'm never going to get better, and maybe not believe the fact that I'm getting better. It's like, oh, no, this can't be possible. But then it was, and I couldn't ignore it. And so in a sense, that's why I love the rune Degas, because I've experienced it in a way that was profound and life-changing, And so I think with today, the message of Degas is, one period can end and a new one can begin for you. And if it does, don't delude yourself into thinking that that's not possible. Don't, bring yourself into mind, body, spirit balance where you're not being influenced by the fear of something. or the negativity surrounding something. Because believe me, no matter what you end up, if you have RA or you have lupus or anything that's that's something that you're having to cope with all of your life, basically, or for a significant portion of your life, you feel like nothing's ever going to get better. And in my case, I never had any doctors that told me it could get better for you. Instead, it was, oh, you're not responding, blah, 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 right? And then, oh, well, all I could do is try to keep you comfortable, when they give you crappy drugs with lots of side effects, right? That's what happened to me. But then one day it was over. And you can't be afraid to embrace life, It's like, wow, I can, I don't hurt anymore. I don't have pain anymore. And unless something happens that's painful, then I have pain, right? I don't have pain anymore. And that's been since 2011. So it's an example of where one door closes and another opens and a new day dawns and everything awakens into something better. And with the Fool ending the reading, anything is possible. The undeveloped potential of that new awakening, that new period, that new phase of life, that anything can happen. If you control the impulse to maybe live in fear over it and live in fear and doubt, control that impulse to do that, because that's the ego calling you, and you don't need that. Now you need to live in higher awareness where anything is possible and that you can have a life, right? That's totally different maybe than what you had before. And so I think today's message, even though it begins out a little strange, right? Defining something in a way, but with Degas, it suggests that maybe there's an end in sight to that, whatever that means for you, and again, it doesn't have to be you're on crutches or you've lost your home or anything like that. It could just mean that there's a phase of your life that maybe was limiting in some way, may be ready to give way to something completely unknown and wonderful and new and with a potential that you can't see yet, but it's there. If you let higher awareness guide that path that you're on versus the ego trying to pull you back down into negativity and, oh no, nothing better can happen for me or anything like that. This is suggesting that it can. And so, while we could say, oh, it's a good way to begin a Monday, but, we have this summer season coming here, and everything's changing, everything's growing, fertility is returned, you're unless the frost took your garden out or something, you know what I mean? It's something where the light is returning, and you can make the most of that any way you choose. And I think the reading is just suggesting, don't let illusion or a lack of balance get in the way of that. Don't let a negative belief structure get in the way of that. Let it go and try to embrace the future in a way that is without any kind of expectation, and see what happens. See if something more positive comes of that. Again, I like to keep the readings as general as possible because, let's face it, we all have our own experiences in life. It's not the same as everyone else. And so it might look different for me. It might look different for you, anybody listening to this. It may manifest in a different way. But with Degas, there's always that hope that the next phase of life can be interesting and positive and productive, maybe lucrative, who knows. In my case, it just meant that the time of the illness is gone. And again, even though I deal with the fallout of it from time to time, I don't deal with the condition anymore. And I could never have seen that coming. When I became a cannabis patient, I just wanted to feel a little bit better. I thought, well, maybe it'll take the edge off the pain I was in. It was excruciating pain all day long, every day. Sleeping was hard. It was horrible. And this went on for, well, probably about 13 years. And so I just wanted to feel a little better. I didn't know that it would be the answer. that would end it all of that stuff for me. I had no idea, but it was, and so I wrote about it in the first book I wrote, and published it. And I don't know, I think it's a lesson in anything can happen. If you try something outside the box, you think outside the box, and you try something you might not ever tried before. If you are somebody who's thinking about changing jobs, it can have something to do with that. And you make that decision, yes, I would like to change the job. That's the decision. That's the decision point here in the center of Degas, right? And then watch and see as things open up. And maybe you decide to take a position, you're offered a position that you've never done before. You have the skill set that can contribute to being successful, but the thing itself you've never done before. And yet you decide, I'm going to take that, and it turns out to be the best thing you've ever done, and you didn't know that at the outset. But here you're offered something that, well, I don't know. It's not really what I've been doing, but yet I know I have the skill set to do it. So, and you take the position, and, who knows what can happen there. And I think it's that who knows aspect of it that really, it just opens the door for anything at all to happen. I mean, it's not that everything that the doors that open take you in a positive direction, but at the same time, if you're not letting your ego get in the way and letting it control the choices that you make, then maybe that's the safeguard you need to make the right decision for yourself. But don't be afraid to embark on something totally different. It might be what you've always been looking for, you see. And again, with the Fool, the undeveloped potential for all kinds of wonderful things is there. So anyhow, I think that's it. I think we don't need to say any more. But just think about that, especially as we're coming this week, as we come up to the summer solstice, where the light is here, summer is here, and see what that can do for you, what doors that opens for you, and just think about that experience with Degas. It can be quite profound. I mean, I know personally, how profound that type of experience can be, where one door literally closed on an illness that was supposed to ultimately be the rest for the rest of my life. And then it wasn't. So, I don't know. Just because I chose to do an alternative form of medicine just to give me a little comfort, and then that happened? Wow. So it's if that's not an expression of Degas in my life, I don't know what is. And so since that time, Degas has been one of the runes I go to, when I want to think about things like that, about, okay, how do I transition from this, what I'm experiencing here, into something else? So I find it to be an extraordinarily useful rune for that purpose. But anyway, hopefully it can work that way for you as well. So anyhow, thanks for watching. Everything's out on the blog over at Stepping Aside. The web address there is imsteppingaside.com. If you forget, click on more below the video and a window will open up, and it's right there at the top. If you scroll down, you'll see every place else I am, either on social media or on other publishing platforms like Patreon, Medium, and Substack. Substack, I titled that one Witch Notes after a book I wrote called Witch Notes, which is just a little book of correspondences I use. I culled it out of my grimoire and put it in an organized fashion instead of having to flip through all the pages and go, what did I do with that one, So I like organization. I'm a Libra, so I don't know. I like that sort of thing. So, and I like to write, so I put it all in a PDF for myself, and then I thought, well, heck, I'll just publish it. So I did. But anyway, that's what the Substack is called. It's called Witch Notes. But anyway, check out the blog. The forecast is up. The astrological correspondences or overview for the week is up. The Exploring Tarot card is up. That series is coming to an end here this summer. And then let's see. The correspondences for Work and Magic, if you're magically inclined, that's up for every day for the week. check that out. I'd love you to do that, and click subscribe, and come back again on Thursday, summer solstice, and we'll do a summer solstice reading. It'll be I just do general readings here, but let's do a summer solstice one on Thursday, and come back again on Thursday for another edition of As Above, So Below. Be good to yourself, be good to one another, and blessed be.